What is going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and as we prep for another night shift for my day job, it is time to talk about the final subclass in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, the Order of Scribes Wizard. We received this in the subclass revisited Unearthed Arcana from back in May of this year, which was sort of a genesis. We went through the Psionics, and that was canceled. Psionics Wizard. We went through the Onomancy Wizard, and that was canceled. We landed on Order of Scribes. So we're going to talk about that, and then the future of the series of this coverage when we get to the end of the video. But let's talk two things real quick. One, if you like this channel and you like what I do here and like seeing these kinds of videos and whatnot, well, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot, makes me feel good, makes me want to keep doing videos, so I appreciate that. And lastly, at 11:59 p.m. Eastern tonight, the 30th of November, my giveaway to win these things here, this giveaway ends. So you can get yourself an alternative art cover of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, one of 2 copies of the standard cover, or the DM Screen Wilderness kit here that goes till 11:59 p.m. tonight Eastern time. So if you want to enter and you haven't, you're really running out of time. Now's a great time to do so. That being said, let us dive in here. So Unearthed Arcana on the right, Tasha's Cauldron on the left. We had originally what was called Wizardly Quill. That name is the same, and it was as a bonus action. You can create a tiny quill, and it does some cool things. It doesn't require ink, and when you write with it, you can produce any color you want on the writing surface, which is a nice little flavorful thing. The gold and time you must spend to copy a spell into your spellbook are halved if you use the quill for transcription, which is nice. You can erase anything you write with the quill if you wave the feather over the text as a bonus action, provided the text is within 5 feet of you. And the quill disappears if you create another one or if you die. I like this ability, but I kind of almost feel like both of the second level abilities should almost be base wizard features. Not necessarily everything, but some of this I feel like could be base wizard things. But I can tell you from playing a wizard now at level 11, this half this time and half the gold for spells you transcribe into your spellbook, that's huge. I just transcribed not that long ago Rary's Telepathic Bond into my wizard spellbook, and that took me 10 hours. It would be really great if I could have done it in 5. All right, so where do we end up? It doesn't require ink, still a bonus action, any color. The time you spend to copy a spell into your spellbook equals 2 minutes per spell level if you use the quill for transcription. So previously it was halved. Reminder that it is 2 hours per spell level. That is now 2 minutes, so this is even crazier. Right, as I said, it was a 5th level spell, so 2 hours per spell level meant a 10-hour transcription time. This would have been a 10-minute transcription time, which would have been insane. I could have gotten a whole day back. And then you can erase anything, and if you wave the feather over it. Okay. Then we have what's called the Awakened Spellbook. You basically make a special spellbook. While holding it, it gives you the following benefits. You can use it as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. When you cast a wizard spell with a spell slot, you can temporarily replace the damage with the damage of another type in your spellbook, as your spellbook magically alters the spell's formula. And when you cast a wizard spell as a ritual, you can use the spell's normal casting time rather than adding 10 minutes to it. Once you do this, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. And then it says if you can replace it over a short rest by using your wizardly quill to write arcane symbols into a blank book. At the end of the rest, its consciousness summoned into the new book, which transforms into your spellbook along with all of its spells, which is also great because it means you can recover a full spellbook rather than just having to start fresh. And all the previous spells from that book, the previous one, vanish and appear in the new book. So spellcasting focus is the same. When you cast a wizard spell with a spell slot, you can temporarily replace its damage with a type that appears in the spellbook, magically alters it. The latter spell must be of the same level as the spell slot you expend. Okay, so they did change that. So previously, like, you could have cast a 5th level spell, and if you could use magic missiles, 1st level force damage to replace the damage with force. Now it has to be the same, right? So if you have a fireball and lightning bolt, you can cast a lightning-based fireball or a fire-based lightning bolt if you want, basically using that because they're the same level. And when you cast a spell as a ritual, you can use the normal casting time rather than adding 10 minutes once per long rest. The benefit of that is a wizard can cast spells from their spellbook that are ritual casting even if they don't prepare them, and this kind of makes it at least a one-time thing, almost as if you did prepare it. And they kept that same little bit about, doing this. It says which you are attuned, which I would have probably not used the word attuned. They used it here too, but I'm realizing that can confuse people, thinking you have to attune as in using a magic item slot to attune to your awakened spellbook, which would just be silly given the fact that it is basically one of your base class features. Okay, so that's the same. Then we have what was originally called the Master Scrivener. When you finish a long rest, you can create one magic scroll by touching your quill to a blank piece of paper, causing one spell from your spellbook, your awakened spellbook from that class feature, to be copied onto the scroll. It must be within 5 feet. It must be a first or second level and have a casting time of an action. Once in the scroll, the spell's power is enhanced, counting as one level higher than normal. You can cast the spell from the scroll by reading it as an action. It says reading it. Well, it said specifically that the spell had to be an action, so that makes sense why it's an action to read it. It's unintelligible to anyone else, and it vanishes when you finish your next long rest. You're also adept at crafting spell scrolls, determined by Chapter 7 of the DMG. The golden time you must spend to make a scroll are halved if you use your quill. All right, so then we have Manifest Mind, is what it was called over here. You can conjure forth the mind of your awakened spellbook as a bonus action while the book is on your person. You can cause the mind to manifest a tiny spectral object within 60 feet. Is intangible, doesn't occupy its space, and sheds dim light. It can look like a ghostly tome, a cascade of text, or a scholar from your past. That's sort of what we're seeing right here in the art. Well, manifested, it has dark vision up to 60 feet. I can see in here, it can telepathically share what it sees with you for no action, or what it hears. Whenever you cast a wizard spell on your turn, you can cast it as if you were in the spectral mind space instead of your own, using its senses. You can do so a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. As a bonus action, you can cause the spectral mind to hover up to 30 feet. It can pass through creatures, but not objects. But the movement, it has to be to a place you can see. It stops manifesting if it's ever more than 300 feet away from you, if someone casts Dispel Magic on it, or if the awakened spellbook is destroyed, if you die, or if you dismiss it as a bonus action. Once you conjure the mind, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, or unless you spend a spell slot of any level to conjure it again. So I'm trying to actually figure out what the benefit of this thing actually is. So it looks like it can do some recon, but it sheds light, so it's not super stealthy. It has dark vision, which may be of use to you if you don't have dark vision. And you can cast from its spot, giving you other, movement opportunities to cast from a different location. And you can cause it to move 30 feet as a bonus action. Yeah, also to my Dispel Magic points from the past, this specifically states Dispel Magic works on it. As I stated in my debunking Dispel Magic video, Dispel Magic really only works on spells unless the specific thing tells you that Dispel Magic works on it, like this one does. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually jump ahead to the 10th level ability in Tasha's Cauldron, because that's actually called Master Scrivener, and I think it's basically the same. When you finish a long rest, you can create a scroll. Let's see. Causing a spell from your awakened spellbook to be copied onto the scroll. First or second level, casting time of one action. It counts as a level higher. Cast the scroll by reading it as an action. You're also adept at crafting spell scrolls, which are described in the treasure chapter of the DMG. Okay, so it's pretty much exactly the same as far as I can tell. Master Scrivener, what was originally the 6th level ability, which is now the 10th level ability in the published source, looks to be the same. You're basically going to get, when you finish a long rest, a free first or second level spell as an action, as a scroll for you to use, but it's going to be the first level spell is going to be cast at second level, the second level spell is going to be cast at third level. So, there's a lot of potential options for what you want to do. Something that upscales, something that allows you to choose extra targets, like an invisibility would be cast at third level, which is normally a second level spell. It lets you cast invisibility on 2 creatures, and it's free, and you just get to do it per long rest. And then the bit about crafting scrolls is also interesting because there was rules in Xanathar's guide, I believe, for crafting scrolls, but because this kind of falls into the, like, you're supposed to just use just Xanathar's in the player's handbook or just Tasha's Cauldron in the player's handbook, not necessarily both, I guess is why they don't reference that. But the halftime on crafting scrolls is super useful. Because again, if you have a lot of spell slots and a lot of interesting spells, or your go-to ones that you're probably going to burn through a lot, like mage armor, shield, things like that, that you will routinely cast often. If you get into combat, those may be spells you want to make into scrolls. Then we have the 10th level ability here, which was now the 6th level ability, is called Manifest Mind, which I think is pretty much the same. Summon a tiny spectral construct, sheds dim light. Okay, here I didn't see anything about hit points. Here it was intangible and doesn't occupy a space. So this point it was, if I'm understanding that correctly, yeah, it couldn't be killed. It could only be dispelled. That was the whole thing. In the original version, it had hit points. Let's see, where does it say? It has a number of hit points equal to your wizard level, plus your intelligence modifier, and it uses your armor class and saving throws. So they have since opted to remove that and basically make it intangible, but it can be dispelled, and if it gets too far away from you, it also goes away. Okay, you can see in here what you can hear, range of 60 feet. And you can see through it. It senses if you wanted. Okay, it can share what it wants with you. Okay, whenever you cast a wizard spell on your turn, you can cast it if you were in its space. And this was, you could do this a number of times, proficiency bonus per long rest, and that's still the same, right? The cast from its space. You can cause it to hover up to 30 feet. It can stop manifesting if it's ever more than 300 feet away from you. If it drops to 0 hit points, or you dismiss it. Yeah, I'm really not seeing the benefit of the Manifest Mind ability. Like, it doesn't give you anything great. It's kind of dumb. I kind of enjoyed it being at level 10 because in the Unearthed Arcana, I could have ducked out after level 6 and I would have been fine. But this level 10 this level 10, now this level 6 ability, yeah, it's definitely cool for thematics. I can see that. Like I said, it could be great for recon or substituting your own lack of dark vision by using its dark vision. And having another spot to cast spells from in combat is always useful, but it doesn't really do much more than that. I don't really see the need for it, personally. And lastly, we have one with Word, and this one got a big change. But while you're holding your book, and its spectral mind is manifested, you can take an action to cause the two of you to teleport, swapping spaces. You can teleport in this way a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Moreover, if you die and at least one spell remains in your awakened spellbook, you can return to life 1 minute later within 5 feet of the book. You revive with 1 hit point, then roll 3d6. The book loses spells of your choice that have a combined spell level equal to or higher than the roll. For example, if you rolled 9, spells vanish from the book that could be a combined level of at least 9. That can mean 1 9th level spell, 3 3rd level spells, or so on. Thereafter, you are incapable of casting the lost spells, even if you find them on a scroll or in another spell book. The only way to restore your ability to do this is through the Wish spell, which can restore 1 spell to the book per casting. So that ability was originally just hot fat crap, and I would never ever use that. Why would I? I mean, the teleportation is nice, but that was proficiency bonus times per long rest. And yeah, oh shit, I'm gonna die, let me bring myself back and sacrifice my spells. That could be okay, but the fact that you would lose the spells forever and you could never learn them again is just completely ridiculous, which is why it got changed in the final form. So, while your spell book is on your person, you have advantage on Arcana checks, which is nice, a nice little flavor bit. Moreover, if you take damage while your spellbook's mind is manifested, you can prevent all of that damage to you by using your reaction to dismiss it, using its magic to save yourself. Now, this is useful, and now seems that almost the magical mind being manifested once we look at the level 14 ability is just so that it exists, so that we can use it for the level 14th ability. So rather than being able to teleport, was it as a bonus action? I think you could swap spots. No, an action to swap places. You can now, as a reaction, dismiss it, make it go away, prevent all damage. Then roll 3d6. The spellbook temporarily loses spells of your choice that have a combined spell level equal to that roll or higher. For example, if the roll's total is 9, spells banished from the book could be 1/9 level, 3/3 levels, or something else. If there aren't enough spells in the books to cover this cost, you drop to 0 hit points. Until you finish 1d6 long rests, you are incapable of casting those lost spells, even if you find them on a scroll or spellbook. After you finish the required number of rests, they reappear in the spellbook. Once you use this, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So that's interesting. I like, there's some new stuff, new features we're seeing here, right? This whole use up your spell slot. This almost reminds me of using experience points to craft in 3.5. But this whole until after 1d6 long rests, that's going to be really annoying. If you don't play super frequently, you're going to lose track of how many long rests you had. But overall, I think this wins out, right? A teleportation proficiency bonus times per long rest, I feel like loses out to constant advantage on Arcana checks and the ability to prevent all damage. But the downside of that is preventing all damage still triggers that reduce the number of spell slots. But the spell slots reduced are also temporary and they come back after a while. But yeah, it's you can use it whenever you're taking damage too. But it is only once per long rest, that whole ability. But the sort of benefit of that is you can choose when you want to do that, right? Is it at the start of the game and I took a big hit like for 60 damage, or am I going to get knocked unconscious by this little piddly hit and use this to save myself, to keep myself in the fight for another round? So it's giving you more options, whereas the last one only worked if you were dropped to if you return to life within, it was also within 1 minute later, which means like whatever combat you are in that probably took you out, you are not going to be still a functional member of that combat because a whole minute will have passed, which is 10 combat rounds. This is a reaction. You can just immediately do it and pop yourself back up. Or rather, immediately prevent the damage so that you're willing and able to pop back up and do stuff. So let me know what your thoughts are about the Order of Scribes Wizard. Like I said, I really, really like the reduced casting, a reduced time frame for spell scrolls. That could be like a cool thing you could make into a feat. I like that you can make a scroll on a long rest and then it casts a little bit higher. And I super love the level 1 or the level 2 abilities, right? The quill that lets you drastically cut the time for copying spells into your spellbook, and then also the new spellbook, which I think this is technically the first time a spellbook can be used as an arcane focus. Even if you are a wizard, you couldn't normally do that. But then the other side is the swapping of the damage types, right? The sorcerers just got that transmuted spell, meta magic, which lets them change damage types. This lets you swap the damage types as long as they're of the same level. So I don't know. I don't particularly love it. Like I said, the original version, at least I felt like it dip out after level 6 and I thought I'd be like somewhat accomplished. Now I have to go all the way to level 10 to get the whole scribing scrolls enhanced speed thing. I don't particularly love this one. Blade Singer is definitely, I think, is hands down my favorite wizard, but there are some other good ones out there. You know what? Again, didn't seem like a lot of you wanted a Blade Singer specific video since I covered it already in my reprinted subclasses video that I did to kick off this whole Tasha's Cauldron series. But I'll open the floor to you once again. If you desperately want a Blade Singer video to discuss the 2 very minimal changes that were made to the class, well, not necessarily very minimal, but the 2 small changes that can impact it a lot or a little depending on how you play, I can make that video, but I wasn't planning to it. So thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check the links in the description for that giveaway before it ends, and I will see you all next time.